This is the
Stuck at
home service.
My apologies to listeners who've downloaded the podcast for this week. As you can see, it's incredibly short because we have no items. So I was just going to thank all those people who over the weeks have donated their time and their efforts to making items for us. I'm not going to twist any arms this week because... who's that?
I don't know, Martin. I think there's somebody at the door. They ran away before I could see who it was.
Oh, they always do that. You go and get it before somebody nicks it, and we'll put the national anthem on while you're getting it.
We do not know what lies ahead, but our times they're coming, and if we believe all that's been said, it's a kind of unraveling. The ground beneath our feet is shaking, and with each day's news our hearts are aching. So put your hand in mine, my friend, we'll face what comes together. We'll face what comes together.
You'll never guess what I found at the door.
Oh, parcel, I presume.
Just this huge cardboard box with segment written on it in like a childish handwriting.
Go on, then open this up.
It's a small USB device. On it, I think, does that say Chris Bellamy written on it?
Oh,
there?
Chris has left us something. It'll be an item for the programme.
Oh, thank God.
Oh, we've got something for you to listen to. There we go.
That must push this week's programme up to 10 minutes.
No, actually, it's really short. Look, it looks to me like a little one.
Yeah, well, let's put it on anyway and see what it is.
Okay.
Jabberwocky, written by Lewis Carroll and read by Christopher Bellamy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the job bird, and shun the frumious bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand. Long time the manxome foe he sought. So rested he by the tum-tum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. O frabjous day, callooh, callay, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrabe.
Well, that was some great contact there from Chris, but I just don't think it's enough to save the programme this week, Martin.
No, you're right. We can't really put out a programme as short as this. No, there's somebody at the door again.
Can you go this time?
Okay, it takes me a bit longer.
Oh, please, I'll go then. It's fine.
Yeah, sorry.
It's another box.
It's been the same size as the other box.
It's actually slightly heavier.
Oh, go on then. What's in there?
The programme inside must be slightly longer.
Yeah?
Yeah. This one, if I can tell from the return address, I think it's Kirsty and Bryony.
Kirsty and Bryony?
Yeah, should we...
Oh, she mentioned to me some weeks ago that she was going to do an item about lists and procrastination and being organised and things like that. Cheers, Kirsty. Okay, we'll put this on now and see how long it is. It looks to be a good 15 minutes, this.
That's some great stuff. You know what, Martin, we might get a show out of this week if this carries on.
Well, a short show, maybe.
Yeah, well, not one of our best.
No. Anyway, over to you, Kirsty.
Oh gosh, yes. This has been on my list for ages. This is my things I need to do. And weeks ago, I was talking to Martin, weeks ago, and he was thinking, "Oh, Kirsty, you could do something for the Stuck at Home show." Guess what? I came up with this great idea all about lists and getting SHIT done, and procrastination and a whole lot of stuff. And I blurted it all out to him, but didn't do it.
As your daughter, I definitely have sent you lots of messages where I'm sort of trying to be accountable to you to get SHIT done. But then it seems to be a reciprocal relationship that we have, because often I also get messages from you about what you've managed to achieve for the day, and sometimes even I get a sneak preview of a photograph of a list which looks uncannily like my list.
I even sent Martin a photo of a list. He didn't reply though. He didn't reply to my messages. Yes, okay, well, things to say about a list.
Photographing a list is also kind of the end of that list of getting jobs done, is photographing it and documenting it. And sometimes I even share pictures of my list with other people to prove how productive I think I've been, or how ridiculous my lists are.
Regarding lockdown, everybody thinks they should be really, really productive. And things have evolved, haven't they, over lockdown, about how we feel. So at the beginning, quite fired up, wasn't I?
Well,
how
I think
about you?
Collectively, but you were definitely on a roll, as we might say.
When I spoke to Martin, I think I was on a massive high, because I actually had cleaned my oven and it was on my list, my mental list. And the thing is, I hadn't cleaned the oven since it was put in, and that actually is almost 5 years ago. So it was a brand new oven. And I haven't actually done that job. It's like that, well, lockdown can finish now because I've done that job.
It's a bit of an end of an era, isn't it, to say that you finally cleaned your oven?
I can die happy.
The thing about lockdown is the unambiguous time frame for me, because I'm locked down in Spain. So I'm far away from you and I'm far away from friends. And when we've lived together in Sheffield, there's something about popping downstairs and telling you, or you telling me, I've done this thing, and having a bit of a cheers moment with a glass of wine or something. Whereas because lockdown, it's never ending, and also you're not physically with people, it makes it a little bit harder to stay motivated, because there's always this feeling that, well, I could just do it tomorrow or the next day.
Yes, that's bad, isn't it? I'm going to just think about this. So the motivation. So how I do it is I get a piece of paper and write on it. And I've got favourite sizes of shapes of pieces of paper. I have my nice little square ones that are the kind you can put straight in your back pocket of your jeans. So because I always go to shops and forget what I've gone for. So I've got my little square pieces of paper. But I then have my nice recycled paper. I'm reaching down to my computer as we speak for Paper One Radio, and a piece of A4, but to make it the right size, you have to fold it in half to make it A5, symbolically creasing it. And then I start writing, and I have that nice double thickness. So there's a whole... Anyway, but there's also these other people that have like computer lists, and well, I'm not one of them. Or they have even notebooks. So tell me about yours.
I think I'm like you in that I have so many different systems, and that there's a logic that only I understand. And I have to admit, my boyfriend George thinks I am the mad paper lady, because I have all my different systems, but they're quite anarchic and often very analog and nonsensical. And so I have various little notebooks, like A6. And then what happens is I finish the notebook, and then I go back and I think about all the lovely memories of the weird shopping lists, and some of them are really important notes and other things are really not important. So then I end up ripping pages out or taking photographs of the pages, and then I don't really have a system for
Oh dearie me.
But then
I'm a bit worried about Mad Lady there, to be honest, because as you took out that leather bound, I'm mentioning to the listeners, the leather bound note A6 notebook, you stroked its cover like my list book. Oh my gosh. These can be bequeathed to somebody, to your grandchildren, on your, well, after you die, obviously.
More, I think there's also something strange about what we decide to keep and what we don't, and what we think is an important list or what we think is just a transitional list. Because actually, like, if in 100 years' time I found someone's shopping list, I might find that really interesting, but they might not decide to keep it at the time because it would be so irrelevant. But that would actually be so interesting to me to see what would someone buying from Aldi in 2020.
I found those, well, obviously not that old, but I have found them in those Aldi, or any supermarket trolley. People's shopping lists are quite funny, yes. Especially if they write something very embarrassing on it.
We talk about anyway, types of jobs, like big jobs, small jobs, ball-breaking jobs, in-between jobs.
Oh, you said the magic words, in between jobs. Now, I know what you mean, but other people won't. Well, it's because my dad was a bit of a hard taskmaster, very industrious, as you know, grandpa, and he coined the phrase in between jobs, as in a little job to do in between the other two jobs that you're really trying to do. You're supposed to be doing while doing the two anyway. And he, even like when he was lying on bed, because he was bedridden for quite a few years, you'd be hoovering round him and he'd say, you could just do that, such and such in between job.
Classic would be when Grandpa would suggest that there was half an hour before Granny was going to dish up supper, so Dominic and I could polish some silverware, or we could just rearrange the mantelpiece with the chicken ornaments, or go and sweep the yard. And I think we've all inherited in our family that mentality of squeezing little domestic tasks in between the creative tasks or the really, really horrible big tasks like doing a tax return.
This is why I was never on time for you at school, because I always was doing that last little job before going to get you at the school. So I was the bad mum there. Yeah. Well, I am terrible. I am a very bad person. I write a list. And even before I write the list, I know I'm not going to do everything. But these are kind of to keep me thinking about what I do want to do. So I do write a range of jobs. There's no point in writing those all in one list, because that'd be a bad list. So you need to have a variety. I have I've chucked them all, haven't I? I might have phone Pauline on my list. So I might have a few phone calls to friends, which are nice things, and I might even just post a birthday card on a list as well, so that's more things to score off. So I'm already planning my day for hopefully feeling okay at the end, because I know I'll never finish the whole list.
Yeah, that's something interesting about making your peace with the fact that they're always going to tip over onto the next one. So you've got to curate it so that enough of it is going to be achievable for that day. But then it's funny that you do that, because I also sometimes write mega list where it's just a brain dump, so that I don't have these things floating around in my head and remembering that I've got to do them. And I just say, that's the list of things I'm going to do another day, but at least I've written it all down. So it feels like I've documented it, and then I can work on what I want to do today. And I even sometimes number them. If I decide, what will I regret? If I go to bed and I haven't done something, what will I be really upset with myself? And often it's a creative thing. And I'll always let myself do the domestic things first, unless I just number it and say, I'm not going to do anything until I've done the creative thing. Because otherwise that's the one for me that always gets tipped onto the next day.
I'm glad you do something nice for yourself, because you've been coming over as a bit of a mega achiever. And I mean, you So I'm glad that you do some nice things.
Well, I suppose that's this, but it's a deeply personal thing, isn't it? I would never want people to think that I was a type of person that was doing all these things. I think it's about your frame of reference, and there's some people who don't even keep lists and they're completely happy with that, but we hold ourselves accountable to these lists. So it's all different types of people, really.
The thing is, I've got a rubbish memory, so I actually write it down to remember it, and I also do the writing bit because I remember things better that are written, even better than that I've typed. So that's. I mean, people that don't keep lists usually have massively amazing memories, and I don't.
Yeah. Do you add?
I mean, I stand.
If you've forgotten to put it on the list and then you've done it retrospectively.
Oh yes, that is the special skills. Yeah. Once I realised that it was the joys. So yes, when you have done something and you think, oh my gosh, I can't even score it off, it's not on my list. So you think, shit, SHIT. So you get your pencil out of your selection of pencils and you write it on there. And you can choose where to write it on your list, a bit random. And then scoring out. Love it. Yeah, so I do that and I don't care. And I know lots of other people do, because I've actually had this conversation before with other people. Somebody said on Facebook, believe it or not, they said, does anybody else do that? Write it retrospectively on your list and then score it out. So yeah. Those are my sorts of friends.
Well, yes, and the sorts of friends that I had Ellie at uni, who used to do what she called procrastinating, which was a great skill. And then I had Connor, who is the king of efficiency, as we all like to call him, who is the person who coined the phrase for me about getting shit done. And that SHIT. And that is, it's funny how that mantra, these mental cheerleading, turns into something that we all share, because Connor said that to me and then it's become a bit of a mantra, and then you use it for me, and it's kind of a circle of everyone rubbing each other's back saying, oh, your oven looks great, or well done that you've done your blog post, or well done that you've hung your curtains. And it has to be treated kind of lightheartedly, because it is silly, it is ridiculous, but it's also something that gives us a bit of structure and sense of meaning. I think it's kind of fun how mundane it can be.
Yeah, you're actually smiling. For people on the radio, I can see she's smiling. We're doing this. Even from Spain, you're smiling. And what I was thinking of, what you really talked about is the psychology and the motivation. So you were talking about mental cheerleading, and you said earlier about having a celebratory glass of wine. I mean, we can't be drinking all day, can we?
We've got to vary.
I have a celebratory phone call, which can go on for a bit longer if I'm chatting to a friend. And also you talk about procrastination. Dominic and I have talked about this. We think we're so creative. We do think that. And we're actually creative about our procrastination, or we think we are. So I realised, I think Dominic maybe mentioned it to me, that, I've done the oven. That means there's something else worse that actually I'm putting off. So then I thought, a few days later, this is in lockdown, I'd fixed the fence. I did a biggish job on this fence and I was well chuffed with it and I could see it and it was fabulous and I was happy. And I thought to myself, this means there's something worse that I'm putting off. What is this thing? And there I am lying in bed looking at my crooked curtains with my curtain pole that's hanging off by the skin of its teeth. And I know for a fact that this is the job. Lockdown cannot end until I have fixed my curtain rail.
There are things like that, aren't there, that they haunt us. And I've discovered a new technique, which is that if it's haunting you, eventually you can just take it off the list. And that is very liberating because you've created the rules of the game. And sometimes, because I often do about 60% of the list, and then it gets way too messy because it's all scribbles and chaotic. And then I rewrite the list and I move everything over. And if something's been moved over lots and lots of times, sometimes I just decide, right, that's it. It obviously wasn't important, or no one's going to die. It's not the end of the world. I'm just going to take it off the list. And not that you can do that with your curtain, because eventually it will fall down. But it's quite fun to do that, because you realise that you're in control of the list.
Yes, I have the things. Did you say things that haunt us? Did you say that word?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's I have that email that I haven't replied to. That email that's actually still in my inbox. It's 4 years old. That's haunting me. But yes, I do what you do. I've thought of a couple of emails now, especially because I'm the person who moans about people that don't reply to me. Oh yes.
Yeah.
But
isn't it? The longer you leave it off, the less it feels even scarier.
So I do exactly what you said. If your list's a bit messy and the scorings are all over the place, and again, let me get another piece of paper and let me just fold it for a fresh A5 experience, and then I can write a fresh list. Yeah, I do that, and then I chuck them all in. And then I go to the recycling and I admire the full bin of recycled lists to be forgotten. Yeah.
Well, it looks like there's quite a lot to talk about. In fact, when I told someone that we were going to be talking about lists and procrastination and getting SHIT done, they thought that was the ultimate kind of getting SHIT done inception, because actually it's kind of the opposite. It's about wallowing or reveling in the craziness. And I personally get quite stressed out when I meet people who really do have computer programs and special ways of completely organizing them, because I think part of the charm of these lists is that they're not very logical and they're not hierarchical.
Yeah. There are systems. What's urgent and important, urgent but not important, important but not urgent. There's another one, not important and not urgent. Oh, yes. Anyway, I think it's actually a little bit urgent that we actually get this recording to Martin. Otherwise, the shut-at-home programme will be too short.
Well, clearly we can talk for England about getting SHIT done, but now it's time to actually get some of that done.
Well, would you look at that, Matt? We've got a whole 2 segments out of this week's show, but I'm afraid that's it for us this week, listeners.
Well, actually...
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, while that was running, I saw outside there were 2 more parcels. So here they are. I've opened them up already, and they're both items. Can you read that? What's on this one?
It says it's from Larry Ginniker. It says, The Sheffield Rules of Soccer.
Hi there, I'm Larry Ginniker, the Stuck-at-Home Services football correspondent, and this is Ginniker Goes for Goal. As you know, there isn't any football at the moment. There might be soon, or then again there might not. Some seasons in other countries have already ended. Some might end soon, and some look as if they might never get going again. In short, it's about as clear as Boris Johnson's advice on whether you should stay at home or stay alert or go to work with a close family member or take them for a walk twice a day instead. So what's the old fool going to talk about for the next 2.5 hours, I hear you ask? Well, I'll tell you. You might think the rules of football were written on tablets of stone many moons ago and haven't changed since, and you'd be wrong. The rules we know and play to today are only about 150 years old, and they've even changed a bit during that time. For instance, it used to be you could only be offside if you loitered in your opponent's penalty area. Nowadays, you're offside if some computer whiz kid draws a line across the screen and your big toe's in front of it for a millisecond. The only loitering that goes on is in the pie stand if it's 0-0. Another thing you might think, because I know listeners to the Stuck-at-Home service do a lot of thinking, another thing you might think is that the rules have always been the same everywhere. Not so. Different parts of the country used to use different rules. That's why football's a game of two halves. If teams had different rules, they'd use one team's in the first half and the others in the second half. What's all this got to do with what you pay at the turnstiles, I hear you ask? Well, I'll tell you. Here at the Stuck-at-Home service, we like our features to be evidence-based. We're not some fly-by-night purveyor of fake news, are we, Mr. Murdoch? So when our audio archivist Barnaby unearthed an old recording, I thought I'd use this as, well, evidence. It's a recording of someone reading out the Sheffield rules as set out in the laws of the Sheffield Football Association at a meeting at the Adelphi Hotel on the 6th of March 1867. I say someone. In fact, the person reading them out is credited bizarrely as a Sean Bean. No, not that one. Anyway, our thanks go out to Barnaby for letting us have this recording. It's on a wax cylinder, by the way, so you might find it a bit crackly, though the Stuck-at-Home services techies have done their best to clean it up. Thanks to them for that. So here they are, the Sheffield Rules of Football, read by Sean, no, not that one, Bean. Maximum length at ground shall be 200 yard. Maximum breadth shall be 100 yard. Length and breadth shall be marked out with rouge flags. Goals shall be upright posts 4 yard apart with a bar across them 9 foot from ground. 2 flags to be called rouge flags shall be placed, one on each side, in a line with goal, and 4 yard distance from it, with a bar across it 9 foot from ground. Winners at toss shall have choice of goals. Game shall be commenced by a place kick from centre at ground, side losing toss. Other side shall not approach within 10 yard at ball until it is kicked off. After a goal is won, losing side shall kick off and goals shall be changed. But if, in playing a match, half the specified time shall expire without a goal being obtained, side shall change goals, kick-off being from middle in same direction as at commencement of game. A goal shall be won when ball passes between goal posts under tape, not being thrown, knocked on or carried. When ball's in touch, a player at opposite side to that which has kicked it out shall throw it from point on boundary line where it left ground, in a direction at right angles with boundary line, and it shall not be in play until it has touched ground, and player throwing it shall not play it until it has been played by another player. Any player between an opponent's goal and goalkeeper, unless he has followed the ball there, is offside and out of play. Goalkeeper is that player on defending side who for time being is nearest to his own goal. When balls kicked behind goal line or out bars at goal or rouge flags, it must be kicked off bit side behind whose goal it went, within 6 yards from limit of their goal. Side who thus kick ball are entitled to a fair kick-off in whatever way they please, opposite side not being allowed to approach within 6 yards at ball. In case ball is kicked between rouge flags under bar, side kicking it shall be entitled to score 1 rouge, and ball shall be kicked off a bit defending side as before mentioned. A goal outweighs any number of rouges. Should no goals or an equal number be obtained, match is decided by rouges. No player shall hold or carry ball or knock or push it on with hand or arm. Side breaking this rule forfeits a free kick to opposite side, and offending side shall not approach within 3 yards at kicker, but noting this rule shall extend to drive them to stand behind their own goal line. No goal or rouge shall be obtained by a free kick from a penalty. Neither tripping nor hacking shall be allowed, and no player shall use his hands to hold or push his adversary. A player shall not throw a ball or pass it to another. No player shall take ball from ground with his hands while it is in play under any pretence whatever. No player shall wear spikes, projecting nails or iron plates on soles or heels of his boots.
This is the
Stuck-at.
home service.
Well, that was fascinating. And what's that second parcel that came, Martin?
I don't know, I can't read this one either.
Oh, Martin, it's another one of our segments from Ben Key, singled out.
It's, who's on it this week?
Judging, it's difficult to tell, but by the way I can rattle the USB, it sounds a lot like Deborah Egan.
Okay, go for it.
This record is called B54. It was made by the Xerox Teens. The Xerox Teens were a band that came out of the art school movement, specifically in North London in the mid-2000s. I came across them when I made films with them for their video clips that were associated with their new releases. They're a great bunch of typically eccentric and unusual art school graduates, and I felt very much that I was part of their tribe. I first came across them at the Voltaire Studios in Tottenham, which is a place that Charlie Chaplin first performed, interestingly, and they were accompanying a live performing dogs troupe show. I knew at that point that they were going to be friends. They produced B54 as the Xerox Teens, but they went on to become the XX Teens because they got into a conflict with the Xerox Corporation as a result of being broadcast quite a lot on Radio 6 and coming to the Xerox Corporation's notice. They'd been picked up by Mark Riley and Zane Lowe, and they were definitely going places. They got picked up by Mute Records and went on to have a 4 or 5 year career as interesting art house punk musicians. I really like this particular track because I'm a total sucker for narrative. Anything from country and western to dark Irish ballads have got a huge sense of appeal. Even things like Jolene with its great moral imperatives really strikes a chord with me. So this particular song, which tells the story of the singer strolling down a canal and on the bankside coming across 6 little boys. The 6 little boys have decided they want to be dads, and they're all talking about the witchcraft of making a baby they can all look after. It's great. The vocals by Rich Cash, and the driving bass line is by Rick Naveau, who alongside the drummer Seb provides the real rhythm narrative alongside the sung narrative for the record, only proving that you can put any kind of interesting nonsense of any description on top of a great bass rhythm track and it will take it anywhere or make it compelling. They went on to work with Ross Orton, who was the producer for the Arctic Monkeys, and they're definitely worth listening to.
Little boys stood coming on a fire, trying to make a baby. We decided, man, we got some news, dude. We made a decision. We wanna be dads, we're working hard, and you can't stop us. So long as that's what you really want. I don't even want to watch. And go away, gay. We're concentrating, okay? Don't get lost. Alright. I walked away a little while and sat down by the little stream. I washed away a stain that had appeared on the back of my hand, and the river cooled a dribble in my eye. Something told me not to stray too far. Being banned, saw the whole thing. Little baby lying by the fire. She got 5 legs, 6 legs and a croissant. She got teeth, she got 5 clothes. She got bone, she got other and reconfirmed they loved each other, and even I had a tear in my eye.
This next track is by Adam Zegma, who is a young Sheffield musician. He produced it at John Downing's Do It This End Records in Sheffield. John Downing is a great asset to Sheffield. He is producing 7-inch vinyl for local Sheffield bands, and Adam had this pressing done there. Adam was part of a group of artists who went to Orkney last year in May 2019. I was one of those people, and we went to Orkney to get inspiration and to form an artist residency, working with Orcadian musicians and collecting sound and data and samples and lots of other things to make a new piece of music that at the time compared Orkney with its huge ancient history with the rest of the country. Orkney used to be the capital of Europe in about 1750 BC, and it has the most amazing collection of archaeological sites that represent the early parts of our civilization before it was impacted upon by the Romans. So it's got this great collection of early Celtic earthworks and temples and stone circles and all that kind of thing. It's a very, very beautiful, inspiring place. And Adam was inspired to produce this piece of music, which he recorded while we were all there. So it's both evocative, handmade, Sheffield, contemporary, and really beautiful and creative. The record is just called Orkney on Do It This End Records, and this is track 1 of 4. This next track is by X-Ray Specs, and it was their probably greatest hit and also the title of their LP, Germ-Free Adolescent. It was very inspiring to me as a young emerging female musician. I was caught up in the first stages of the punk wave that came out of the British music scene. But at that time, it was kind of defined by people like Sham 69, UK Subs, and of course the noisy Sex Pistols, who were really great in terms of presenting a kind of anarchic and revolutionary alternative to the sort of cakey, unsatisfactory nature of commercial music that was defined by the big American corporates. But they didn't really quite speak to me because they weren't very nuanced, I guess. But Polystyrene and X-Ray Specs opened the door to a whole new wave of interesting soft punk music, like the Raincoats, like the amazing Slits, and Susie and the Banshees, and lots of others. So they were. What made them inspirational was the way they presented and the way that Polystyrene appeared on stage. She was British Somalian. She used to wear military uniforms, which she made herself, that were covered in random neon stripes, and she had a set of campaign medals for God knows what, on her left-hand breast jacket pocket. She wore a hard hat that was like a policeman's hat with a hard plastic black neb, and she sported a fantastic pair of braces that just filled her mouth every time she opened it. When she was being filmed in front of the mic, these glittering braces came to the forefront. She was amazing, and she was at the time presenting something that represented a different kind of urban inner city generation that wasn't making its way through the usual commercial music pathways, and she was part of a new movement that was defined by DIY labels, which held the fore for about 5 or 6 years, and strayed across into the States, and also became the backbone for things like the making of Sugar Hill Records and the new hip hop movement and street sounds and all that really exciting stuff that crossed the Atlantic in the very early 80s. So she was part of something very important, and I found her really inspiring. And of course, Germ-Free Adolescent speaks to adolescents even more so in this particular lockdown time. Although I'm sure that none of them really want to be germ-free. I don't think I did. Thank you, Polystyrene.
I know you're antiseptic, your deodorant smells nice. I'd like to get to know
going on? Oh, no, 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 so many. Get me
Thank you.
Got you now.
Why are all these feathers floating around in the wind? I mean,
Oh, sorry. I went into the garden to survey the weather so we can talk about it later in the show.
talk about it for a long time, probably, yeah.
Yeah, we've got to really fill in the hours. I was out there, staring directly at the sun, as all good weathermen do. I was suddenly descended upon by a huge flock of birds.
Yeah?
And taped to each of their legs was a small USB.
For a local programme, people are getting very inventive with the way they're delivering things, aren't they?
Well, I mean, they can't come around themselves, so, they've got to find their way.
And these birds let you take the tape off?
No, I had to kill all of them, but I got the USBs eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, so eventually I managed to remove all the USBs, and it took me ages. It looks like a segment, Martin. Not like one altogether. Maybe during this next segment I can try and piece it all together.
That's interesting, actually, yeah.
What is the next segment?
Well, I thought we'd go for Hugh's Thought of the Week. In fact, this has come with a bit of script for you.
I have to talk on the programme?
Yeah.
I always assumed you just cut all my bits out.
No, I'll put Hugh's piece in now, and here's your script.
Oh, cheers.
You're in the middle somewhere, okay.
Alright, I'll try and time it right while I'm getting all these USB devices.
Yeah,
sorted.
lots
Right,
to do,
let's
isn't there?
let's go to Hugh now.
Good morning, Martin, and hello, everyone. Today is the 6th Sunday of Easter. In some traditions, this Sunday is called...
Oh, repetition of Sunday.
What?
Repetition of Sunday. The 6th Sunday of Easter. In some traditions this Sunday. Repetition of Sunday.
And?
And I gain 1 point for a correct challenge.
This is ridiculous. I'm doing the little thought here.
Oh, okay, sorry, my bad. Carry on. It was a correct challenge, though. Okay, carry on.
Thank you. Okay. Right, well. Good morning, everyone. Today is,
hesitation.
bloody buzzer. Oh, did I say that?
I think you did, yes.
Can you edit it out in the final cut?
Yeah, I'll have to use the buzzer.
That, I've had enough. You don't hear John Humphreys doing this to the Archbishop of Canterbury?
Yeah, dream on.
Right, I'm off.
Oh, sorry. Please come back.
For the benefit of responsible people, we interrupt this broadcast to assure you that both the Reverend Thomas and Mr. Martin Curry are not really in the same room and are, in fact, observing the rules of social distancing. Through the miracle of sound recording, this conceit has been constructed for your entertainment.
Can I carry on now?
Be my guest.
Right, where were we?
Well, I think you're in your spare room.
No, in the script, so no. Right, rustle your papers again.
Okay, I'm off.
Bit more than that. Sorry. Please come back, Hugh. Mr. Curate, Your Holiness.
Don't overdo it.
Okay.
If I come back, can I do my thought?
You can think like you've never thought before. Be our guest.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Today is the 5th Sunday of Easter. In some traditions, this day is called Vocem Jucunditatis.
Deviation.
What?
Deviation. Vocem conjunctivitis. You made that up. Bit short-sighted if you ask me. Could have spotted that.
Martin, what are you playing at?
Oh, I'm playing just a minute. You know, one of us goes for 60 seconds without hesitation, repetition or deviation. You break a rule, I get a point. I should be able to take over the talk, really.
Martin, I'm doing our little thought slot. A couple of minutes of spiritual reflection, of religion light, of homely, you know?
Oh, okay. Hence the confusion. Completely different to what I'm doing.
Well, now you say it. I do think religious folks should maybe hesitate before they speak, repeat a little less, and maybe try the occasional bit of healthy deviation.
Did you just squeeze a small God slot into banter? I only agree to do this if you kept out the God stuff.
Repetition of God.
Alright, well that was a wonderful thought for the week there from me and, Hugh and others. Now, Martin, I managed to piece together all of the bird USBs.
Oh, well done.
It's more of an art than a science, but I think they all add up to approximately one Frank T. Watkinson song.
That's quite small then.
Yeah, no, they were very cheap USBs.
Oh, I thought you got them in the right order.
I mean, I don't know, some notes might be out of order, maybe the lyrics are from entirely different songs, who knows? But, it's content, Martin.
Yeah, right, and it's Frank, it's going to be good, isn't it?
Almost certainly.
Oh, if it is. Okay.
I'll just have to try and upload all of these exactly in time, but let's do it now.
still alive, I'll get in my car and I'll go for a drive. And I'm gonna take my grandkids with me. We won't stop till we get to Whitby. We'll walk on the beach like we used to before, and listen to the waves lapping onto the shore. And later on we'll get some real fish and chips, and the kids will drink cola, and me, I'm gonna get pissed.
Wow, that was a great song from Frank.
Yeah, it made sense.
It did. I must have gotten all the USBs in the right order. And,
Yeah.
Oh, Martin, the cat just walked in, listeners, and Martin, does it look a bit ill to you?
Oh no.
Oh no! Oh no! It's
You're picking that up.
Oh no! It's throwing up on the carpet. Oh, this is really quite unpleasant. But Martin, what's that in the puddle?
Yeah, I've spotted it. You're picking that up.
Oh, fine by me, Martin. I'll do anything for the show. It's another USB.
Don't lick it clean.
Okay, Martin. So I squeezed the USB, and from the sound of the escaping data, I think this is The Showdown by Spleeny Dodson.
That sounds great. Well, I think it's turning out to be quite a good show, actually.
Yeah, no, we're pretty careful, otherwise we'll head over the hour mark.
I'll put it on then.
Here we go.
The heat was unbearable. The sun beat down mercilessly, and the redundant shade of the tent billowed in the hot breeze. Each of the rivals eyed the other with suspicion. Somebody had to make a move, sooner or later. The only question was, which of them it would be. Eyes watched eyes, hands twitched, ready to move, bodies tensed past all measure of anxiety. This was it. The moment was coming. Even over the stifling swelter from the preheated ovens, each of them felt a chill pass down their spines. Suddenly a klaxon blared. "Contestants, let the baking begin!" Rosemary went for a whisk. Carl and Juno each separately went for pipettes, pointing the nozzles warily at each other as they noticed the mutually neutralizing move they had made, while Clara, slowly, thoughtfully, and betraying no trace of fear, picked up a wooden spoon and licked it. This was it. Now was the time for the cake, bake, shakedown, showdown to begin. Marjorie Morris from Fordham on Lyme cracked a half-dozen eggs in a world record time, while Rosemary Plimner, arthritic limbs limber, sorted hundreds and thousands by colour and size. Clara Fitzpatrick completed a hat-trick, 3 layers of sponges topped by moths set in aspic, while Juno De Vere showed no sign of fear as she risked a meringue that would drive most people frantic. Carl Bonavera's ambitions were clearer, fudge chocolate brownies and a classic Madeira, but the fates were more cruel to Sid Andaman's Yule log, which fell from the counter with results flat and smeary. The host shot out puns from their witticism guns as contestants were cringing while dodging and lunging, fighting for space on the racks of the ovens, then tasting the traces of flavours once pungent that dissolved in the bowl while mixing and stirring to only emerge from their much later burping. So this was the showdown, and these were the stakes. A prize for the person who baked the best cakes. Though the rivalry strong and the beating sun stronger, each contestant would die for that prize money wonga. For a fistful of notes and a cast-iron trophy, even Marjorie Morris would sell her granddaughter Sophie, while Carl Bonavera would give his left leg. Well, you can't make Madeira without breaking eggs. The hosts of the show were now circling like ravens, and the people at home were all choosing their favourites, though they were all far away from being able to taste the soft fondant fillings and dark chocolate paste that, under the stage lights, were starting to wither, making Rosemary Plimner go all of a quiver. And almost before the wild baking had started, the contest reached time and the fierce rivals parted. Each rival returned from their ovens to counters and waited for judgment as the tension was mounted. And under hot sun, while threatened by flies, the rivals all watched and they prayed for their lives to be deeply enriched by a handful of tenors and the high praise that came to the ultimate winners. It is time to announce who goes through or does not. The host ramped up the tension with a bright roving spotlight. So try as you might, you can all do no more, as we taste all your baked goods and give you a score that decides on this day in the fierce public eye which takes the prize and which of you die. Yet on our follow-up show, the weight loss, shake-off, fat loss show-offs, coming this autumn to BBC Two.
Hi, my name's Craig Broadwith and I've written a few poems. And during the lockdown, I've worked on them a bit and I feel that they're now in a state where I can happily air them. I'm no poet though, but having gone to quite a few poetry events to see my partner Claire perform her work, I penned a few of my own. My first one is called Vulcan Bomber. Vulcan XHH558 lives just down the road in Doncaster, which is particularly poignant to me because she is one of the planes that my father flew. Vulcan Bomber. XHH558 will fly no more. Silenced is her banshee roar. Her arrowhead silhouette will pierce no clouds. She'll never deliver those mushroom shrouds. My father flew her and her sisters with gifts to poison the steppes' wide vistas, while beetles and stones strummed Strats and Gibsons, backlit and blast shadowed by fallout's stark visions. Then this bird carried a different load, paying a debt that was never owed, a blue steel egg whose uranium yolk would feed Russian, Polish or East German folk. Victory would not be this egg's gift, the exchange would spawn an unbridgeable rift. Incoming ordnance would breach that impenetrable dome. There'd be no place left, no Sheffield, no home. So while young men took their final flight, brave women hugged children, resigned to their plight, or tucked them in beds, knowing they'd see no more dawns, as their world was bathed in bright firestorms. Channeling my inner Ted Hughes or Simon Armitage, I wrote this one after a lovely day out on the Settle to Carlisle Railway for my birthday, where we had a lovely circular walk to and from Ribblehead Station. This one is called Wernside's Skirts. Glacial dumped rocks corralled by dry stone framed meadows manifest a surreal graveyard peppered with abandoned Hepworths sitting serenely on Wernside's skirts, the bookend of our view. Inquisitive sheep press forward towards the picnic spread, like nature's bounty in the acid-eaten cavity of ice-ground calcite teeth, which protrude snaggle-like through ovine-cropped grass. Beyond the bluff, a great arched edifice strides inexorably across the valley, defiant of latter-day beachings. Wounds and wear betray this giant's age, lovingly tended by the high-vis-clad descendants of the hardy navigators who peopled and reshaped this timeless valley. Talking of 1960s poets, during Hull's City of Culture in 2017, we visited an exhibition celebrating the life and work of Philip Larkin, who was head librarian at the University of Hull. Visitors could go into his office, look at his books, listen to his records, and indeed were invited to write a poem. This one's mine. It's called Dear Mr. Larkin. When I stopped studying you in 1975, I had no idea you were still alive, and now I can't remember a single quote apart from that sex poem you wrote. The picture you painted of ships up streets reminded me of seeing Boothbury Road defeats, with my grandfather escaping his Silver Street bank to watch, shout and swear as the Tigers sank. Though your diaries were burned, they kept every book, record and letter. But Mr. Larkin, I have to say, I always liked Ted Hughes better. I started on a depressing note, so I'll finish on one too. Just recently, I've been thinking a lot about my mortality, and haven't we all? So I came up with this. It's called Scatter My Ashes. Scatter my ashes on Stanage Edge, or Vallis Marinaris, or Ribblehead. Wondrous, woeful and mindful places, take me somewhere where I'll leave few traces. Along Wyming Brook, on Olympus Mons cliffs, on an alpine piste, where the snow drifts, up Grindsbrook Clough to Kinder Scout, where the Manchester Rambler cared for nought. But take me somewhere I'd be happy to be, somewhere I could come down from for beer, not tea, because if there's a mythical heaven somewhere, it's high in the hills or in fresh mountain air. Wind blown, sun baked and storm battered, blizzard blasted, ice sharded and shattered, rain soaked, water washed from some rocky cleft. At one with the earth is where I want to be left.
This is the
Stuck at
Home Service.
Well, listeners, I can't believe you've done it. We've all saved the show. You sent us your segments by bird mail and
mail
and cats, and together we all came together and saved the Stuck at Home service for another week.
Pitsmore, we love you.
You know, Martin, that reminds me of something.
Well, actually, yes. Ali Bird sent us a ditty. It's entitled Pitsmore, we love you.
Ah, that'll be why. I mean, we should definitely put it in the show. It's from the minds that brought us our new national anthem.
The same team, yes. Okay, take it away, guys. This is going to mark the end of the show, so thank you for all your help, everybody, and thank you for pulling it together.
Oh, and by the way, the weather's fine.
Yeah, it'll do.
Anyway, take it away.
It's more we love you, it's more we do. Though you may be littered some, we're proud of you. There's nowhere quite like Pitsmore, and I know you will agree. The community So let us stand as we face the coming storm, for we love this land. Let's work for a better dawn, and let us love